We're here at Colorado's 7th preseason practice, 8th day of camp, Brian. They had a day off yesterday. It looks like they took over Fat Cats in Westminster, a little team building with some bowling. We were able to get a day off as well. Back at it today, Darren Cheverini talked to the media, and I thought shared a few interesting things.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was my 20th anniversary. I went paddleboarding, so I'd rather do that than this. But hey, Cheverini was good. It was good to talk to Cheverini. I mean, obviously he's aware that offense has got to pick things up, and scoring 28 points a game, he says the next step we got to get to 35. Get that extra touchdown, and he likes what they're doing right now. I mean, the quarterback competition is really strong. He says. I mean, the running game. He loves the offensive line, the way things are going. So. Again, the message is always kind of positive coming out of here, but I think there's some merit to it. I think that they are a little bit stronger and better in a lot of those positions.
There's a pesky fly in there trying to get on camera as well during Cheverini's interview there. I thought it was interesting. I asked him which returning guy has made the biggest jump, and I was expecting him to name a receiver, and he named Jake Wily, who we've talked about, who with Frank Phillip being out and he's working his way back, we don't know exactly when he's going to be back in the mix.
Yeah.
It's starting to sound more and more like Jake Wily is going to be starting at right tackle when the season kicks off.
Yeah, I agree. And I talked to Max Ray today, and I did ask him specifically about Jake, but he had really good things to say about Jake and said he's really good. He looks really strong out there. So it does sound like Jake Wily. If I had to do a pencil depth chart right now, I would put him as that right tackle, and probably feel pretty decent about it. I mean, he had a good spring, and it sounds like he's having a good fall camp.
And the first receiver he mentioned is my guy, Montana Craig. I am driving that hype train. I was the only one to vote for him for the Top Buffs Countdown. He's probably not going to be one of the first three names mentioned when we preview the receivers, but he might be number 4.
Yeah, he could be. I mean, he's got the skill set to do that and the talent. And he was a guy that in the spring, Coach Terrell, what do you call him, a safety blanket or something like that. That the quarterbacks like that they can throw to him, and he made plays when we saw him. So if he's that guy, that's one thing that can elevate you from maybe being a 6th, 7th guy to number 3 or 4 is if the quarterbacks feel really comfortable with you, and on 3rd and 8 they know Montana's going to be open for 9 yards. All of a sudden he elevates his game. So I think he could be that guy.
He also mentioned Brennan Rice. I had a chance to talk to Brennan after practice today. I thought it was interesting. He talked about the dynamic within that receivers room, the fact that K.D. Nixon was kind of the alpha dog there. With him gone, he said they've actually gotten closer together as a unit. He said last year him and Vontae would butt heads and really have strong disagreements, and yet they found that common ground this year, which was important for that group to find with K.D. Nixon going off to USC.
Yeah, and it was good for me to hear that Brennan Rice is taking that next step because not that this is necessarily going to be the case, but we know Brendan has been very active with NIL stuff, and part of me was wondering, is he too invested in that and not enough in the work going forward? But it sounds like he's taking his game to the next level. So that receiver group, if they are cohesive and guys are stepping up, that can be a really good group and maybe one of the better receiver groups we've seen around here in a number of years.
And I did ask him about the NIL stuff, and he kind of downplayed it and said, that's not my focus. That's what you'd expect him to say. It doesn't sound like it's running his life right now, but when you have the last name Rice, you might as well take advantage and get some spending money at least, right?
Yeah, and in fairness, it probably doesn't take a lot of time to post something on social media and get your name out there. You want to promote yourself, right? And you want to take advantage of this opportunity. So maybe it doesn't take a ton of time. It just looks like that's something he's putting out on social media, but that's what you have to do in this day and age, right? You have to put yourself out there, and his follower list has, I don't know what it is on Instagram right now, but it's incredibly higher than it was on July 1st when they said NIL was okay.
Going back to the offensive line, like you mentioned, you talked to Max Ray. Anything else you kind of took away from that interview?
Not anything more than really what we've been over with him before, but he is having a really good camp. He did say that he hadn't before this camp put on pads since the national championship game, and so he's been taking some time to get into football shape. And he said today actually T-Lane got the best of him. He goes, so I got to go work on that and get better. But he's really excited about the opportunity, and we know he didn't start. I think he started one game at Ohio State, but having the opportunity here to be a left tackle, I think he's really taking that and running with it.
I had a chance to talk to Kanan Ray as well. He's been working in there a lot with the first group at right guard. He was kind of bouncing around between tackle and guard, and it sounds like mostly guard right now. And we've talked about this with him in the past, I believe. It's just crazy. This is the first time in his college career, and he's quite a bit removed from high school now, that he's had the same head coach for 2 years in a row. And so he just said that part of it's nice.
Yeah, and even not only the same head coach, but he committed to a different head coach at UCLA than the one he started with at UCLA. So he's been through so many head coaches, it's crazy. But yeah, Kanan is a guy that I view as sort of an X factor on this offensive line. He's a guy that we've been waiting for to be a guy on this offensive line. I think right now I don't project him as a starter, but he can be in there for sure. He's certainly in that mix at right guard. I chatted with him briefly when you were done with him, and he said this is the best I've felt in a long time. And he once again, he said Coach Turley has been amazing.
Yeah.
And just add him to the list of guys that have referenced Coach Turley. I don't know how Drew Wilson feels about seeing all the stuff if he watches all this, but I know players like Drew Wilson, but Coach Turley seems to have taken this to another level because he gets mentioned without us asking him about him all the time.
I don't think I've asked about. I asked Carl Durrell one question about Shannon Turley. Mm-hmm. I've not asked anybody else about him, and yet his name, like you said, comes up every single day.
Yep. Even over the summer, when I've referenced this before, but when I was talking to Chris Wilson, did an interview with him over the phone, and I asked about Chris Miller, and he immediately starts talking about Shannon Turley and the impact that Shannon Turley can have on Chris Miller. So that tells you what Shannon's doing right now, and obviously it's got to produce results. It did at Stanford. We'll see what it does here. But I mean, I talked to David Shaw at Pac-12 Media Day, and I talked to him for 45 seconds is all it was. And I said, well, what do you think his impact will be on Colorado? He goes, I already know what it's going to be. They're going to get bigger, stronger, and faster, and they'll be a better program. So, that's pretty high praise. I mean, that was matter of fact David Shaw saying, I know what's going to happen at Colorado. So it seems like it's already happening.
All right, Friday is going to be media day here at CU, and then Saturday, Brian, we get to watch an open scrimmage. We'll be back with more analysis the next 2 days.